Fiber is part of a healthy diet and is part of every good diet recommendation. In this webinar, the education on fiber is focused on how to figure it into your carbohydrate counting. First, what is fiber? Fiber is part of plant goods like vegetables, nuts, fruits, beans, and whole grains. It has many health benefits, of which we won't go through, but I encourage you to read about that on the Fiber blog on the website. Examples of foods that are high in fiber include black beans, kidney beans, chickpeas, lentils, fruits and vegetables with skin and seeds, whole grain cereals, breads and pastas, chia seed, flax seed, peanuts, walnuts, almonds, pecans. Different types of synthetic fiber is added into packaged foods as well. To start our education for figuring fiber into your carbohydrate count, I would like you to pull out the nutrition label handout first. Because fiber cannot be fully digested, it will negate the carbohydrate count. Thus, when you count carbohydrates of a certain food item, you must subtract fiber from that total carbohydrate count, and that is called your net carbohydrate. As mentioned in the last video, there are two types of foods: foods with labels and foods without labels. You will need to count your fiber content for both. An example of a food without a label is the fatty fruit, the avocado. Fiber actually occupies 79% of the avocado carbohydrate count. So if you have a medium avocado, it's 12 carbohydrates, and about 9 of those are fiber. So your net carbohydrate will be 3 grams. Fiber in foods with labels is much easier to count. Every nutrition label is required to put the amount of fiber in it. If your item has over 5 grams per serving of fiber, then you're going to subtract that from your total carbohydrate count. Let's go over a practice example on the nutrition label handout. First, locate the total carbohydrate in one serving. You will see that there are 10 grams of carbohydrate. Second, subtract the dietary fiber. You're going to subtract the 5 grams. Your final product is 10 minus 5, which is 5 grams of carbohydrates. So there are rules, and there are exceptions to the rules. The exception for counting fiber is that when the amount goes over 10 grams, then you'll want to stop subtracting them from the total carbohydrates. A good example of this is the Quest protein bar. On the front of the package, it says net carbohydrates. If the front of a package says net carbohydrates, then you can guess that there is going to be fiber in that item. For this example, the Quest protein bar has 21 grams of total carbohydrates and 14 grams of fiber. So to figure this package, you subtract 10 grams of fiber from the total carbohydrates, and that gives you your net carb. Often, there are also sugar alcohols that are employed to further reduce the carbs, and that will be explained in the next video. If you've heard of the glycemic index, then I would like to explain that fiber has a GI index of 0, but that's not something you're going to see on the nutrition label. Because fiber is so important in the GI index, I felt like I couldn't leave this out of the video. You can infer from nutrition label that has a high amount of fiber to carbohydrate ratio that the GI index is going to be fairly low in general. But there's another webinar video for you to learn a little bit more on that. My 4 diabetes fiber favorites are extremely low on the GI index, and they are vegetables, chia seed, flaxseed, and psyllium. These items by themselves are a little bland, but they're easily incorporated into recipes. So whereas I started loving the high fiber cereals, when I went to low carb, I switched over to chia seed and flax meal. You may not be quite as familiar with these products, so let's review over counting carbs with chia seed and flax meal. For 28 grams of chia seed, there are 12 carbohydrates and 10 grams of fiber. That is 30% of the daily value for only 100 calories, which is a great deal. So let's compare that to whole grain bread, which is typically 2 grams of fiber for about 50 grams of bread. If you get that expensive bread, then it may be 5 grams of fiber for 50 grams of bread. Again, chia seed is 10 grams of fiber for only 30 grams of the product. And it also has double the protein. Flaxseed has a comparable profile to the chia seed. Flax seeds are made up of 29% carbs, which is a whopping 95% of that which is fiber. So what does that mean? It means that flax seeds are low in net digestible carbs, which is the number of carbs minus the amount of fiber, making them a low-carb food. There are numerous practice examples, and I've provided a practice sheet with answers for you. Finally, for the highlights of counting fiber in your carbohydrate count. First, take the total amount of carbohydrates in a serving and subtract the fiber from it. This will give you your net total carbs. Second, you will start counting carbs if the fiber is over 5. And third, you will stop counting fiber if the fiber is over 10. And this is more applicable to a person with diabetes that is actually using insulin. So if you desire to learn more about fiber because it's such an excellent part of a good diet, then I encourage you to go forward to the Nutritional 101 or the Microbiome series. In those, you will learn all about the science of the body, the different types and grains of fiber, and the health benefits of each type.